Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Brent Nicole, and I serve as Vice President on the FirstU Board of Directors. Normally, if you would like more information about First Unitarian, it would be available at the welcome table at the back of the pews. However, while the FirstU building is closed because of the COVID-19 virus, you may instead contact us through email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. I repeat, for more information, please email us at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. After this service and future services, our normal hospitality hour will be replaced by a virtual getting together on Zoom, usually starting at 11:30 a.m. Sunday mornings, Ottawa time. If you would like to join us for hospitality hour on Zoom, you can find information on how to do so in our weekly email newsletter, the EUU, or on our website, www.firstunitarianottawa.ca. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, however you identify, and whomever you love, today you are part of our spiritual community. Welcome. We hope you come back soon.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving. My name is Chris, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. Even though our doors have been closed since last March to do our part in preventing the spread of the virus, our congregation has remained connected and active. We are still a vibrant congregation with open minds, spirits, and hearts. I hope this moment finds you well. This morning, I welcome you into the homes of all today's worship participants. Thank you for welcoming us into your home. Although we find ourselves in separate places, here we are together online, listening, connecting, and soon singing. A few more announcements. In these times, staff are working remotely and are monitoring emails during usual business hours. Phone calls will be checked less regularly, so please do email staff for a quicker response. As mentioned, it's more important than ever to sign up to receive our weekly EUU email newsletter, to check our Facebook page and our webpage for notices and updates. Our online calendar is as full as ever. Please look to this week's EUU and website for a variety of announcements, including trivia nights, the discussion circle, meditation, updates regarding the ministerial search, climate action, Sunday morning forums, and how to get involved with the annual pledge drive, as well as the weekly religious exploration lesson. There's also information regarding the Chew on This campaign to mobilize people across Canada to call and write in to end poverty. Are you missing seeing your friends at FirstU? If so, a great way to renew connections is to be a connecting caller during this time of COVID. Please contact Reverend Pat at minister@firstunitarianottawa.ca if you'd like to be a caller. Hopefully, you stay in tune with the national offerings that are provided by the Canadian Unitarian Council. So you may have noticed the Canadian UU Women's Association offering free online woman-honoring adult religious exploration program called Cakes for the Queen of Heaven. It examines stories of goddesses in ancient Sumer, Greece, Judaism, and ancient Christianity, and how they may inform our lives today. Here ends today's announcements.
Good morning. I'm Amy Bayrube, and I'm a member of the search committee, and we're tasked with finding the next settled minister at First Ottawa. We're so close to the end of the first set of tasks put out where we gather information about FirstU for potential ministers, as well as figure out exactly what the needs of our congregation are to help get the best fit. And we'd like to thank you for being part of focus groups, which have all been completed at this point, as well as attending the Beyond Categorical Thinking workshop on September 26th. Those were both very important aspects of making sure that your voices are heard as congregant members. Now, you still have one day left where you can fill out our survey. It is due tomorrow, October 12th, or Thanksgiving Day, and it is so important, crucial that we get as many voices heard on that survey. So please, if you haven't filled out the survey, go now and please fill out the survey. You can go to www.firstunitarianottawa.ca On the Settlemester search page, there's actually a link to click on the survey. Please, please, thank you very much. Please go and fill out the survey. And thank you so much for all your help during the Settled Minister search process.
I give you this patch of blue sky, you sing me a cloud passing by. Together we build the sky. Soar a bird, flit a fly, fill it with song, your voice and mine. Braided and bound, here together all along. I give you this patch of blue sky, you give me this patch of blue sky, you sing me a cloud passing by. Together we build the sky. I give this patch of blue sky, you sing it with song, your voice and mine. Braided and bound, here together all along. Fill it with song, your voice and mine. Braided and bound, here together all along.
Bonjour. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. I am the Reverend Pat Guthmann Haresch. You know, Thanksgiving can be a time when we open our doors wide to family and friends. So this morning, let us talk about opening the doors to our spiritual home, FirstU, whether virtually or when we get back into our building. As we have an intern minister among us these days, I'm using for our opening reading words adapted from my ministerial internship supervisor, the Reverend Dr. Kaloran, born in Canada, by the way. We come together in the stubborn belief that community is possible and that peace is more than a dream. We commit together to affirm in our actions as well as our words the inherent worth and dignity of every human being. We come together in awareness of our interdependence with all humanity and with the wider web of existence, for that too is part of what is meant by we. We come together without creed, believing that how we live in the world bears testament to the value of our beliefs. We light our chalice as a beacon of hope for all who have ever walked through our doors, all who have gathered together this day, for those who may yet find this spiritual home, and even for those whose paths may never come this way. Even in these times that we find ourselves together, we come to hope and dream. May it be so. Let us sing the Chalice Song. Chalice, chalice burning bright,
it's Nao, your Director of Religious Exploration. Hope everyone's doing great on this Sunday. Today I'm sharing with you a poem. It's titled The Guest House, and it's by Rumi. It's a piece that I like. I think it's great for this time of year. What I take from it is the importance of having an attitude of gratitude. I think especially for this Thanksgiving, which is a little bit different than many, this piece is suiting. The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival. A joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And that again is by Rumi. Hope you enjoyed it. Wishing everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving.
This is the time in the service when we are drawn closer to the heart of love at our center and hold those both near and far, loved ones and strangers, in our hearts. If you have come to this space feeling you are at your wit's end, without hope, in need of healing, within this moment and circle of community, here at Love's Hearth, may you find renewal and possibility. May compassion be our shelter from storms of bigotry, hate, indifference, loneliness. May we together glimpse and move toward the good that is yet to be in our lives and in the lives of the greater circle of our community and our world. Today I place stones in the water for those you and I are thinking of, joys and concerns in our hearts. I have a stone of joy. I'm really thinking of all the leaders and committees and teams and working groups and volunteers who do so much for FirstU and the community. For all of you, we all give thanks. So much energy in the air now that we've started our congregational year. We also have some stones of care and concern. We are thinking of Joan, hopefully healing from her heel and her procedure. We are so grateful to Joan for helping find Ian a place to live. But for your healing, Joan, we are thinking of you. I put in a big stone. Another stone of concern. We were sad to learn of Barbara McDonald's passing in September, and we are holding memories of her and all those touched by her and her family in our hearts. We were also saddened and shocked to learn of Jamie Dunton's sudden death last weekend. We're thinking of Suki and family, and I was glad to hear that they will be gathering together this Thanksgiving, Suki and family, and that Jamie died in peace near Suki, which is a blessing. But a stone for Suki and the family. And for everyone thinking of Jamie. And a last stone. For the joys and sorrows of this gathered community. And may we hold all, everyone, everything, all the world and earth in our hearts. Let us join together in a moment of silence.
This morning's reading is the poem Red Brocade by the Palestinian-American poet, songwriter, and novelist Naomi Shihab Nye. The Arabs used to say, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's from, and where he's headed. That way he'll have strength enough to answer. Or, by then you'll be such good friends, you don't care. Let's go back to that. Rice? Pine nuts? Here, take the red brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I was not busy when you came. I was not preparing to be busy. That's the armor everyone put on, to pretend they had a purpose in the world. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea.
Words from the late Reverend Roy Phillips, who served my family's UU congregation. Come as you are. You need not bother to get your beliefs on straight first before you come. Come as you are. Come with your doubts, your hunches, your convictions, your ambiguities. Come and be welcome. Come here as you are. And as Chris just read for us, here, take the red brocade pillow. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea. I find it interesting that one of the first questions a visitor will ask when they come through our doors, or when someone is considering membership or perhaps joins on Zoom, is they say, what do Unitarian Universalists believe? What do we believe? If I weren't such a patient and understanding person, understanding where they are coming from, and some of us are coming from, my first impulse would say, wrong question. Perhaps figuring out the particular beliefs that we have is in a sense the wrong question. For what we Unitarian Universalists aspire to be about is not what do you or I believe, but how we are in relationship with each other and our world. Each of us takes the risks when we enter our doors or gatherings that even though we don't agree on all things, don't have a unifying doctrine or creed, don't agree on all things theologically, philosophically, or even perhaps politically, all will be okay. We can still be in relation with each other, listen to, respect, and care for one another. We UUs have long said we do not need to think alike, to be alike. Oh, that's wrong. We do not need to think alike, to love alike. That's right. We are all about creating a safe, respectful, welcoming place for people to live out a responsible, thoughtful search for truth and enlightenment and a life of meaning, but also to make a place for our own deep healing and the healing of others. But we are already, but we, of course, are all ready for that question, right? What do we believe? So what do? A visitor, if they were to come to our sanctuary, they ask what we're about and what do we do? And we grab our hymnal, right? And we go to the front pages, and there you have it. You see a set of principles and purposes and sources for our tradition. There it is. That's what we believe. And these principles and purposes are what you see in the very beginning of the Canadian Unitarian Council's bylaws. And you will find them in Article 2 of the Unitarian Universalist Association in the U.S. In Article 2, you will find it in their bylaws. One item that doesn't appear in our hymnal from the UUA's Article 2 is the inclusion clause, C23. Now, perhaps you don't usually go around reading everybody's bylaws, right? And for fun, right? But C23 reads this way. Systems of power, privilege, and oppression have traditionally created barriers for persons and groups with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories. We pledge to replace such barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. We strive to be an association of congregations that truly welcome all persons and commit to structuring congregations and associational life in ways that empower and enhance everyone's participation. Isn't this so core to who we as UUs see ourselves and where we put our faith, if you will, in the removing of barriers? The dignity, justice, compassion, interconnectedness that we seek and affirm, putting it into action. Taking down barriers of power, privilege, oppression, of people with particular identities, such as age, abilities, histories, to replace barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect where all are truly welcome. The late Howard Thurman, friend to Unitarians, mentor to Martin Luther King Jr., author, philosopher, theologian, educator, and Thurman was also the grandson of a slave. He wrote that in dealing with other human beings, we should act from within the presupposition that all are related. Kind of sounds like the indigenous all are relation, yes? That all are related. And from Thurman, the social classifications within my life and your life have no validity. Whatever political party, socialist, a communist, a Methodist, a Baptist, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a poor man, a rich man, a male human being, a female human being, an ignorant person, a learned person, a sick person, a well person. None of these classifications have meaning. Each one is a human being. Yes, we Unitarian Universalists would agree we're all about removing those distinctions and barriers and realizing the falseness of so many of society's classifications. Yet, as Thurman also suggests, I can love you only when I meet you where you are, as you are, and treat you there as if you were where you ought to be. I see you where you are, striving and struggling, and in the light of the highest possibility of your personality. I deal with you there. I must understand that individuals are the creatures of training, background, culture, of personal frustrations and collective frustrations. They are the victims of all the forces that play upon their lives, shaping and modeling and fashioning them. I must understand this. I can't level everybody as just we're all human beings. We do come in distinct in our ways and our shaping. But this is our hope, that when anyone comes through our door, we can meet them there, truly meet them where they are and make them feel welcome in their wholeness. Mi casa es su casa, my house is your house. But what are the ways that our house might not feel welcoming and we don't even realize it? Do you hear someone didn't turn off their phone? And who might come through our door or into our Zoom session? How might we prepare for visitors these days? Prepare for the variety of visitors that might come through our doors virtually or in person. For many years, there's been a great emphasis within our denomination concerning becoming more multiculturally accepting, mainly thinking about how we might become racially and ethnically more diverse, but also welcoming queer folks and those with differing physical and mental abilities. Since 1820, before every UUA General Assembly in the States, and when they also occurred in with Canada, before the Canadian Unitarians formed your own association, there has been a Berry Street lecture. And about a decade ago, I heard the Reverend Dr. Paul Razor's Berry Street lecture. Now retired, Paul has been recognized in the recent decades as one of our preeminent UU scholars. Over 10 years ago, Paul pointed out what has continued to be an ever-growing trend in North America, whether in the States or in Canada, that the face of our visitors who might be coming to our doors might be changing. That over the last decades, our society has been undergoing the most radical demographic shift in its history. These changes are forcing us to re-examine everything we thought we knew about ourselves, both as a society and a religious movement. Paul spoke mainly about how the face of North America is changing racially or ethnically, that if current rates of change continue, people of color, if you will replace people of European descent due to immigration and birth rates. The Indigenous of Canada are growing at 4 times the rate of other Canadians. The Black population has doubled in size. While the U.S. has the largest population of immigrants in the world, as a percentage to population, Canada has a larger percentage of immigrants as a total population from the U.S. The growth in percentage of the total population. The growth in number of immigrants to Canada from China, India, and the Philippines has been remarkable. The 10th largest group is Pakistan, and 10 years ago, they weren't even in the top 10. The number of people coming from Europe has stagnated or is in decline. Has the face of our UU congregations changed as rapidly as Canada's? Yet even with all of our talk about inclusivity, Paul referred to a UU study that had come out the year of his talk, which in many ways is still true. It's called the Mosaic Project. You can Google it. And it involved youth and young adults who grew up UU. What was found that many of them experienced feelings of being an outsider. The vision of community promised by our 7 principles often failed, which I find heartbreaking. 42% of our Unitarian Universalist youth of color are the only ones in their congregation's youth groups, and another 44% are in groups that only have 2 or 3 people of color. In other words, our Unitarian Universalist children and youth, for the most part, attend religious education classes and youth groups that are far less diverse than their school classrooms. Moreover, 2/3 of our youth groups have no adult supervisors of color. As a result, many of our youth of color experience the same isolation and lack of support felt by so many of our adults of color. And why would that be? Paul Razor's explanation is that even with all our hopes to break down barriers in our UU congregations, they're still rooted in what could be described as European, North American cultural norms and ways of being in the world. We cannot become a multicultural faith, he says, if we have subconsciously or otherwise, if we continue to treat a particular monocultural lens as normative. This way of thinking and being in the world, this consciousness is so close to us, we don't even see it, like fish in water. As liberal religious folk, we have also adopted core values of our times. Paul notes, our primary mode of cultural engagement has been intellectual, as you use. In adapting to modern culture, Unitarian Universalism has for the most part adapted to core values, such as its emphasis on human reason, the autonomous authority of the individual, and the critical evaluation of all religious truth claims. We want our religious beliefs and commitments to make sense, so we examine them and re-examine them, taking nothing for granted, and especially taking nothing on someone else's say-so. These are important values, and rightfully we treasure them, yet this legacy encourages us to keep our religious commitments largely in our heads, where we can hold them at a comfortable arm's length. This gives us a sense of control. It allows us to feel spiritually safe, is what he says. So he also suggests multiculturalism can threaten the sense of our safety. At one level, it's a fear of change and a fear of difference that change also represents. Our move toward becoming a multiracial and multicultural faith challenges our safe and tidy way of being religious. He levels a pretty heavy charge, yes? He says that we will have to wade into the new cultural waters up to our necks and even risk getting in over our heads without first being able to measure the currents or predict the storm cycles. In theological terms, our challenge is to embrace a new understanding of our cultural orientation. Yet our comfort with diversity has its limits. We want our theological differences to be non-threatening. We tend to avoid discussing them too vigorously or proclaiming our own beliefs with too much conviction for fear of excluding or disrespecting other views. The result, once again, is that many Unitarian Universalists have unwittingly adopted a kind of theological don't ask, don't tell policy. Out of fear of saying something that might offend someone, we can easily end up saying nothing. Like our cultural adaptation, our theological diversity can be kept safely in the intellectual realm. So that's from Paul. If we keep our theological diversity in the intellectual realm, This may keep us from getting the message out to the larger and changing world out there. Now, Paul was mainly talking about racial and ethnic changes, but Reverend Susan Myers, speaking at a convocation of UU ministers a few years before Paul, talked about these societal changes with reference to this word that so many of us find challenging, called postmodernism. Mainly, she was talking about the big changes and revolutions we have seen in society in the last century, pointing out the gaps between generations these days. She pointed out that with all the discoveries about science in the last century, and even how we think about history, and some of our heroes have been knocked down, understanding of how tainted we can be in our reasoning, depending upon our social context, upbringing, life experience, that there's a broad opinion in these times that there is no such thing as objective reason that we Unitarians so treasure, right? Reason, rationality, logic are no longer known to be ahistorical, disinterested, and objective. Rather, they are also social constructs. Rationality is understood to be fundamentally shaped by historical and social context. We think in and through systems of interpretation, she says, whose symbols, biases, and interests inevitably shape our reasoning process. What is reasonable in the context of one set of cultural norms may seem irrational or lifeless or loveless to another. So-called scientific or empirical evidence is also viewed with suspicion, since all knowledge and perception are social constructs. Then there is no such thing as impartiality, objectivity, or truth. Knowledge is no correspondence with reality. That's the view. There is only knowledge and truth from the particular realities that people inhabit, which serve their particular interests. What's developed is all knowledge is therefore political. That's a common view these days. The notion that progress is inevitable or desirable, or that the present is better than the past, or that in the future will be better than the present, are also considered to be unproven assumptions. You know, in today's terms, everyone gets to claim fake news about everybody else, yes? It's all relative, depending on where you come from. If this notion tends to run through our society, then what happens to us? Our small congregation, our small denomination. If we only emphasize matters of the head, this impartial, objective truth, without recognition of our own cultural context and biases, what happens to us when a newcomer comes in the door? Something needs to give if we are to be truly welcoming. And it's challenging to consider how to change, especially when we're being asked to change in ways we don't even understand. What does it mean to be have European white, North American cultural norms? What is that different? Isn't that what everybody's a part of? We're so enmeshed in it, we don't understand what it looks like when feel you're an outsider. What are we supposed to do differently, right? How might we truly be welcoming and try and break down the false barriers and distinctions our society creates for reasons that are making less and less sense these days, if they ever made sense? Now, I don't want to lay blame anywhere. I just want to get back to our core values and how we can practice them. And I think there's a good story to illustrate it. A wonderful story that Dr. M. Scott Peck lifted up in his book, The Different Drum. It is said to be a 16th century story, and it concerned a monastery that had fallen upon hard times. And deep in the woods surrounding the monastery, a rabbi would go for hermitage and a retreat to a hut in the woods by the abbot. And the abbot in the monastery was agonizing over what would become of his institution. Fewer and fewer people were coming, even in the 16th century. And so the abbot visited the rabbi for advice, a little collegial conversation, and the rabbi welcomed him into his hut. But when the abbot explained the purpose of his visit, the rabbi could only commiserate with him. "I know how it is," said the rabbi. "The spirit has gone out of the people. Same in my town. Almost no one comes to the synagogue anymore." So the old abbot and the old rabbi wept together. Then they read parts of the Torah together and quickly spoke of deep things, as clerical colleagues do. The time came when the abbot had to leave, and the two men embraced each other. "Oh, it's been so wonderful to meet you after all these years," the abbot said, "but I failed to meet my purpose in coming here. Is there nothing you can tell me, Rabbi? No piece of advice that you can give me that could save my dying order?" "No, I'm sorry," the rabbi responded. "I have no advice to give. Oh, the only thing I can tell you is that the Messiah is one of you." Whew. Whoa, that was big. Wow, can you imagine that? The rabbi told the abbot the Messiah was in the monastery. Well, when the abbot returned to the monastery, he told all the monks what the rabbi said. "Can you believe it?" He says, "The Messiah is one of us." And I don't know what he meant. And it made me think of, what's the song? What is if God was one of us, right? That's what the story's about. So in the days and weeks that followed, the old monks, all the monks were wondering, which one of us is the Messiah? Could it be the Father Abbot, our leader, or Brother Thomas, a man of light? Certainly not crotchety Brother Eldred. But he's usually right about things. Maybe it is Brother Eldred or Brother Philip. He's so passive, but he does have a gift to make everyone feel good, and he's always there when you need them. And of course they each thought, the rabbi didn't mean me. He couldn't possibly have meant me. I'm just an ordinary person. Yet supposing he did, suppose I'm the Messiah. The old monks began to treat each other with extraordinary respect on the off chance that one among them might be the Messiah, and on the off chance that each monk himself might be the Messiah. They began to treat themselves with extraordinary respect. When visitors came, they couldn't but help feel this aura of extraordinary respect that just surrounded and permeated the monks. And then it happened. Younger men would come and they'd visit, and when they talked with these wonderful monks, they would ask to join them, and more men and more men. So within just a few years after the abbot spoke with the rabbi, they became a thriving monastery again, center of light and spirituality in the realm. Everything was good, right? Now, certainly you and I could talk for a long time about all the ways we could open our doors wider. Why or why not we have a greater number and more diverse visitors coming through our doors and into our Zoom or not. We could get out the charts and tables and calculators, all very good, read books and go to webinars on the subject. But what about this piece of the rabbi's message of cultivating an attitude of hospitality, loving people, welcoming people just as they are, treating them like they are the Messiah among us? Perhaps any one of us, whether young or old, queer or straight, man or woman, indigenous or settler, Canadian or immigrant, walking in on feet or with a cane or on wheels, any one of us, blessed, special, anointed. What if you cultivated this sense among us that perhaps each one of us, each person entering the doors, here in this moment on Zoom are, in the words of the old, anointed, holy, special, bearing precious gifts of the heart and minds and hands. What if we welcomed people like that? Among many people of the world, this is the tradition that whoever comes to your door might be a visiting god or goddess. So treat them well. Treat them as if they were. And this was so, as our reading Red Brocade talked about. Let us welcome them. Feed them when we can after COVID. Feed their souls and spirits now. Bring out the red brocade pillow before we start interrogating them about who they are and where they are going, and perhaps before we know that we will become friends and soulmates. Let us cultivate this kind of hospitality where we might be able to claim in these words from the UU Reverend Marianne Hatchen Cotter. Welcome to this place of possibility. This is love's hearth, the home of hope, a refuge for minds in search of truth unfolding, ever beautiful, ever strange. Here compassion is our shelter, freedom our protection from the storms of bigotry and hate. In this abode may we find comfort and courage. Here may our sight become vision to the unseen, to glimpse the good that is yet to be. The good is that is yet to be within each other. By offering love's hearth, a refuge and launching pad for the mind and spirit, may we truly be a place of welcome. In the words of Rumi, come, come whoever you are. May it be so.
This is the time in the service that we usually accept the offering. You may go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how you might keep up with your pledge or make a donation during these times. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another.
Good morning. On behalf of the FirstU Board of Directors, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving weekend. As winter approaches, we hope you will be able to find ways to be connected with family and friends through the upcoming months, and we hope that FirstU will be part of your ongoing support system. As local COVID-19 numbers continue to rise in the Ottawa area, we will still need to continue to be patient to get through the second wave. Sadly, this means that we will not be able to open for in-person activities this month. But we have created a special COVID task force to continue to monitor the situation, and they will provide recommendations to the board every month. We are excited to report that Reverend Pat and our staff are working on making the transition over to live streaming our Sunday services from the sanctuary in the next few weeks. This will enable us to be ready to go once we open the doors. Finally, it is at this time of year that the board and staff put together our annual budget for the next year. Our projections are telling us that 2021 could be a financially challenging year, depending on whether or not we continue to qualify for government wage subsidies, which we won't know until early 2021. So for now, we are making our best guess based on the information we have at this time, but we will need to be flexible and adaptable as new information comes in. Some have asked us, what can we do as members to support our congregation? Please send in your pledge for 2021 as soon as possible. All of our pledges provide us with more certainty about getting through the next year. As well, if you can possibly raise your pledge by 10%, it would help us very much in our long-term planning. We thank you so very much for your ongoing support.
Let us close with words first from the late UU minister, the Reverend Eileen Carpelis, then words from Naomi Shelanai's poem that we have heard today. May our gatherings be truly a place of meeting in warmth and joy and openness, meeting in courage and love and trust. May all who enter here trust one another so surely that they may share the deep fires that burst into anger as much as the sweet spring waters that swell into laughter, the slow erosion of wounded tears as much as the soaring song. When a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who he is, where he's come from, where he's headed. That way he'll have strength enough to answer. Or by then you'll be such good friends you don't care. Rice, pine nuts, here, take the red brocade pillow. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint into your tea. May it be so. Let us sing, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea. Quod vidas quari de justitia, ternurimo, cielo potuo, source de vie, viens vers moi, viens vers moi.
Go in peace, go in joy, go in love, and happy Thanksgiving.